editor Susan McFadden of California Homes magazine. Susan's been publishing and writing about homes in the state, including grand estates, for the past 18 years, and I've been lucky enough to have her cover many of my client projects, and she does an extraordinary job. So thank you for that. She's very excited about the launch of their new website in particular, which we've been chatting about, so please be sure to look for it, California Homes Online. It's pretty amazing. And Susan, I'll turn it over to you to introduce our fabulous 18 clients. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine. When Christine called and asked if I would moderate this panel, and she told me, you know, bottom line, how to build a cool project without getting into hot water, I knew I would do it because it sounds like a lot of fun. And then we have this great panel of wonderful, experienced people. So right now I am going to introduce the panel, read a short bio on each person, and then we'll get into the questions, and they'll take it from there. So we will start, ladies first, we'll start with MoniqueLafia, and I'll read the short bio, because I can't memorize this whole thing, even though I should know everything about it.
But how many years, Sue?
Many years.
20 plus.
20 plus. Well, Monique is a graduate of the UCLA design program. She established her company, Lafia Arvin, in 1997 with star-studded clients such as Rob Lowe and Courtney Thorne-Smith. We are honored that one of her first projects, Rob Lowe's estate in Montecito, was published by us as a cover. The Montecito project was, to our knowledge, the only project that Architectural Digest published after another design magazine's cover feature publication. Subsequently, a list of celebrities, athletes, and business CFOs have come to Monique for design assistance, such as Harry Hamlin, Kenny G, Barbara Streisand, Wayne Gretzky, Sylvester Stallone, and principals of Guthrie Rinker, and privately owned business owners closely associated with Apple. Monique's specialty is long-term relationships, and she has many clients that have multiple homes, and she's done almost all of them, I would say. And she designs estates and beach getaways also. A couple of her famous estate projects are the Buster Keaton estate in Beverly Hills and Wayne Gretzky's estate in Lake Shore. Monique is thrilled to have been featured on the cover of California Homes at least 5 times. We were very privileged to have her on our cover. And she's been in Architectural Digest, Rob Report, Coastal Living, and Trends. Thank you for being here, Monique.
Thank you, Sue.
And we'll go next to Bart Mandel. Bart is president of Stonemark Construction Management, a highly respected construction management firm with offices in Los Angeles and Santa Barbara. Stonemark's diverse portfolio features high-end custom homes and residential estates, commercial buildings, and historic restorations, 50-plus sacred spaces, and with the distinction of being one of the few approved project managers for the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. He has managed residential estate projects in Montecito, Santa Barbara, Beverly Hills, and Pacific Palisades. As owner's representatives, Stonemark leads their clients through the entire construction process. Stonemark controls budgets and quality, accelerates schedules, initiates cost-saving ideas, and keeps the project team harmoniously on track. That's a big project. Known as the Zen Master of the bottom line, Bart manages Stonemark's complex, multi-layered construction projects with precision, knowledge, harmony, and patience. As a longtime Buddhist practitioner, he brings a centered approach to every project, even in the midst of challenging chaos. Bart is the lead accredited professional, a licensed general contractor, ICC certified building inspector, and is considered an expert in risk management, water infiltration, and building science. Thank you, Bart, for being here. Now, last but certainly not least is the architect, who actually...
The architect.
The architect, I'm sorry, yes. Actually, amazing man. Trained as an architect, WilliamHefner is a 5th-generation Californian. Realizing his passion for residential design early in his career, he founded his own firm in Los Angeles with an emphasis on architecture and interior design and landscapes for homes. Over the years, the venture grew into what is now Studio William Hefner. a firm that creates custom homes that engage the lush environment of the California culture. His work has expanded to include custom furniture, lighting, and hardware design. Studio William Hefner creates homes that inspire, nurture, and transform the lives of the families who inhabit them. Hefner passionately advocates that the hands-on human element of craftsmanship is essential to bringing a home to life. William's work is widely published in books and magazines in the United States, as well as internationally, and he has been named one of the top 30 architects for luxury residential architecture in the world by the Robb Report. He recently completed one of the largest estates on record in Los Angeles, Chateau Lafia in Bel Air, 60,000 square feet. I'd say that was a major project. So we're going to start questions now, and we'll start with William Hefner since he's the first to hit the scene. And my first question for you is, you probably have learned the art of staying cool more than anyone with your most recent project, a 60,000 square foot estate called Chateau Lafia in Bel Air. Would you say this was one of the more challenging projects of your life? And what was the key to keeping your clients cool, calm, and collected during this extraordinary construction process? What are the demands of managing clients when doing something very custom or experimental? That's a long question, but let's start.
Is this working? So that was a very challenging project. I think the difficult aspect of it was that we started before we had full drawings. A project like that, no one wants to wait until everything's finished to start, because you have to wait another year to start building. So we didn't really have a fixed budget. We didn't really have a fixed time period for the project. But I think trying to be proactive about things as we went through a construction project and trying to get budgets pulled together as soon as possible. I think there are two things that clients we felt out about. They're basically time and money. So at some point in the project it comes down to that. And I think on that project we're just trying to have as much forward visibility and to make them feel like they had choices. That was a big part of it. And just to manage, it took a big team of people to keep up with it. And part of that time requirement was making sure we had enough trained people in the office to review thousands and thousands of pages of shop drawings and all the other aspects of it that you need to complete.
How much advance time did you spend in the office before you actually started the project,
Less than a year.
Yeah. And how long was it in construction?
5.5 years. A long time.
Did you have someone like Bart on the team to help manage that kind of stuff?
No. So in that project, we were the architect, we were responsible for the interior architecture, the landscape, and we were the owners. So it was a lot of big shoes to fill in that project. And I would have loved to have somebody like Bart, but it was, we did it.
Speaking of construction manager, Bart, why don't you tell us about the role of a construction manager, who is also known as the owner's rep? The owner's rep. Does that mean they're your boss? The owners, or what is that?
Of course, the owner's always the boss.
Right.
So construction management is, technically speaking, it's a series of professional processes to manage schedule, budget, facilitate communication, and basically just try to build a very cohesive, well-oiled machine, a great team that, because they're well organized and highly motivated, they're going to build a great project, and typically it takes less time and less money if you get all those pieces moving. And so that's kind of our role. From another perspective, you could say we don't really do anything. I mean, we don't do the architecture, we don't do the design, but we handle all of the communication aspects. So I think from a technical side, we have to know all the ins and outs of construction and contracts and insurance and risk management and millions of technical details. Sequencing, we have to kind of know everyone's job. in order to be able to blend them together into a seamless whole. But the biggest part of the process is really communication. Yeah. Well, something like that. I was talking to a designer friend of mine the other day, and her characterization of what she did, what Monique does, is 10% design and 90% client expectations. So what I said was, our jobs are the same, except I don't do design.
You try to keep everybody cool.
Right, try to keep them.
And working well together.
And we feel like if anyone on the team has fallen down, then it's really our problem. So we're trying to keep everybody working, looking good, and happy, and doing their job properly for the owner, which is really that's the bottom line.
So Monique, with your vast experience delivering and designing high-profile clients, how do you manage their expectations and deliver without disappointment?
I think,
Even if you have partners.
yes, that would definitely help. And someone like William would also assist the project as well. I think the key is to really understand what your client is looking for. For instance, when I worked on with Rob and Cheryl Lowe, who wanted to see real estate, before I was hired, I was actually hired, I was there 7 hours, and we were selecting materials and ceramic tile, and this is a 20,000 square foot English manor, and I was like, you can't put ceramic tile in this house, it was killing me. So the client's showing me her selections, and I'm like, I don't think this is going to work inside my head. And they don't have someone like Bart on the team or someone like William. So I'm kind of standing on my own as I'm selecting this. So I said to the client, let's wait and make this decision after you come with me, we're going to see some stone. So the stone manufacturer closed the showroom, so I met with Rob and Cheryl at 6:30 at night, and the client fell in love with biblical stone. Well, everyone knows biblical stone is about $80 to $120 a square foot. It's not $5 ceramic tile. So fortunately, someone like myself came in time and before the budget was set, and we made some changes. So to really manage their expectations, a lot of the clients are going through periods where they're available for 2 weeks, and then you don't see them for 8 months because they're working. So when they're on hiatus is when I get about 50 emails, and then during the 8 months, I don't hear from them at all. So managing your expectations is really the communication, like you were saying, Bart, is the key. And also really understanding what your clients are looking for and keeping true to your vision because you are the professional and guiding them every step of the way.
Wouldn't you say that patience is a really big part of it? I mean, in that example, the client came up with some ideas that you didn't think were going to work. We get this all the time, and you can't just barrage them with no at the beginning because they can't hear it. So it's really a question of kind of leading them in the right direction without them knowing they're being led.
Well, I think it really also is educating your client because there's a reason why something you want to use red stone in this application versus ceramic. Don't you find, William, that it's really educating them about the materials, how material is going to be used, and this material is going to work much better in that application as opposed to using something that's less expensive.
And I think if you educate them about it, and they feel like they have the choice. Like clients don't respond well when they feel back to the corner and say, this is what you have to use, it's $25,000 more, and you just have to use it. But if you start walking through the whole process, and you say, here's $5,000, this costs $5,000, this costs $10,000, this costs $25,000, these are reasons why we like all of these various materials. They'll often pick the most expensive one, but they won't be sore about it. If you make them feel like they have to do it,
Because at the end of the day, your home is that's your biggest asset. That's where you're going to allocate most of your resources. And I think it's your dream come true. And it's our job to manifest that for you, to make that come true, and to guide them carefully. And it's a very exciting process. It's very stressful because there's some hard emotions. It is. And it's important that the client really lets the team know what dream they've always had. Whether it's a little picture or they went traveled somewhere and they found something. It's important for them to communicate that to the team. This is what I've always wanted, I've always loved it. Share it with us, don't keep it a secret, so we can help manifest that, help it come true.
So, William, what do you do when you have clients that are disappointed or you feel that their expectations aren't being met? I can't imagine what happening with you ever, but you must have gotten hot water at one point I'm sure you followed that quickly, but since you're starting the whole process first, and you do the design and plans, do they want to change that often or not?
Well, I think we were talking before we started. We were saying we're going to get into hot water at least once or twice a week. It's like in the office, I tell people, you're going to go to the woodshed. Yeah. What are we meeting about tomorrow? I said, well, we're going to have a trip to the woodshed. I said, oh, no, it's just happening. I do that. But it's really then, it's just about how you respond. I mean, if you take responsibility for it, if you have active steps to sort of figure it out of it, if you offer options for ways to get people out of it, as I was saying, let people out of a choice. And I think what people don't respond to well is you can't be defensive. And if you've genuinely made a mistake, you take responsibility for it. If there's some other character on the job that the problem rests with, you've got to be responding the same way, and then you have to have a plan to get things back on track. If they're feeling things are taking too long, you have to offer, here's what we're going to do about it for the next 3 months to try to turn it around. And if it's about money, here are 4 ways that you can save money if you want to, as we go forward. So it's just offering options and being responsible.
Another question for you, Bart. So for large-scale residential projects, it would seem that having a construction manager on the job is very important and an advantage to clients.
I would agree with that.
Right. I mean,
I would too, actually.
If you had to choose the most important contribution that you would make, though, what would that be to a client? If you're talking to them and wanting them to go ahead and put you on the project, what is the most important?
You mean my sales pitch?
Well, you don't have to call it a sales pitch.
Well, I think it varies depending upon the client. Some clients are very busy and they really need someone to take care of their affairs and wrap their arms around them and make sure they're getting what they're paying for. So some people, it's more about time. Some people are very paranoid about the budget and they're not going over the budget. But I guess overall for me, everything that we do is sort of a complete package to create a unified project delivery system. It actually costs less and takes less time than not having us at all. So, for us, it isn't really one thing that we do, it's that we do all of them, and as a whole, it creates a more efficient project.
And they see the advantage to having you there, because they do save money in the long run.
Some people do. I think there's a preconception that having an owner's rep is another layer, and you're just dealing with another unnecessary personality or firm. And I suppose there's some owner's reps that behave that way and they give us kind of a bad name. But it's more about creating value by, bringing out the best in everybody. And there's so much collective intelligence on a project when you have William or Monique, or you have and the contractor. And each person there's enough collective wisdom in the team to know what to do about everything. And we just have to find a way to get all of that out and get it on the table and get it produced. And so, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, you did.
Sue, I think sometimes clients are afraid to make that initial investment, and they think if they go with someone that's a little less expensive, then they're going to save money. But in the long run, if you hire a team that has a lot of experience, they work together, we're going to look out for the client. We're working together.
And most people you work with are busy, they travel all the time. Many are celebrities, or even if they're not celebrities, they're gone all over the world. They don't want to bother with all this. They want the house done right. They'll come home once in a while and look at it and make sure that you're doing your job. But I have a question for you, Monique. You do deal with such high-profile clients. Does it ever intimidate you? Have you ever worked with anyone that really intimidated you and made you feel kind of?
Sometimes when I go into corporations where they earn like $600 billion, I do feel rather small. But I think if you treat every
Second home of this issue here today on the Strand in Dana Point, and I was shocked. It's sad. It's a gorgeous home, and the owners are from Texas. They fly in maybe 3 times a year, and it stands empty. It's going to across it.
I was just gonna say,
Right on the
too
sand.
good to pass up.
But it seems kind of sad in a way. But Bart, a question for you. Have you ever been brought into a project of a very high-end residential project in midterm where they're having problems and you have to figure out what the problem is and deal with mad, unhappy owners and an owner's wife and all that? How do you handle it?
We call it the rescue project. And unfortunately, yes, it's my least favorite type of phone call and project. And I always say I'm never going to do this again, but we always do. We're very good at it in terms of sorting out what's wrong. But it's so much easier to set up a project right from the beginning to avoid all these problems. But we last year we were brought into a project, 180 room house. And I like to say we were brought in month 39 of a 2-year project. And so it was way behind schedule, and the client was very upset, and their contractor and the client were fighting. Contractors thought it would take 3 more months and they'd actually get it finished. That's what they told me the first day I met them. So we just finished like last month. It was a year later. We actually got to the finish line. So I'm very proud of that because it was really, I think it would have collapsed. And so, but for me, again, there's so many things they did everything wrong. They had the wrong kind of contract with their contractor. It was a renovation of a historic house. It was a renovation, and they had a lump sum contract. You don't do that. You know, the contract was wrong. They didn't have the right relation with the architect. Their interior designer was also the wrong relation with them. So everything was set up wrong. And in my experience, if everything is set up wrong, then the fruit is going to be wrong. And so, again, for me, you know, our passion is avoiding all of that. So we like to come in absolutely as early as possible. Sometimes we come in before the architect or designer, sometimes a little after the architect or designer. Then to pull together the whole team. You know, I've never had a project that went that bad. It went south that we started in the beginning.
But if you start in the middle, it's more difficult.
You start in the middle, you just have to pick up the pieces. I had a potential client call me the other day, and she was going through what she wanted, and then she said, I asked her, well, she was talking about an architect, she was talking about a designer. I said, well, have you hired anybody yet? She said, no, I haven't hired anybody yet. I said, this is great, you haven't made a single mistake. But, you know, we can hire who you want, but we want it all kind of tied together, contractually and communication and scope of
Much
work.
easier that way.
Yeah, much
For
easier.
everybody. Monique, have you ever found yourself on a project where the client is now taking directions from the butler or the girlfriend or something like that?
when doesn't that happen, Sue?
So how do you handle it?
So the key thing is I always remind myself, first you have to befriend everyone on the project, whether it's the gardener, the housekeeper, because anybody. And it's important to remember that the client has hired my firm, they're working with the architect or someone like Bart, because their vision, we're aligning the vision for the project together. So it's important to hear what the butler has to say. You want to respectfully listen. And then you kind of want to detour them or guide them, or hopefully they'll focus on something else and move beyond you. And they can, the client will come back to you. So a lot of times it's about power play and then listening.
Again, just you're being cool and you're managing to stay out of hot water when you're doing your project by being nice to everybody and trying to smooth feelings and respect the butler's opinion and move forward.
And don't
Maybe the butler has a good idea.
and yes, some good ideas, but also don't compromise your integrity as a designer and your vision. Keep reminding the client of the big picture and what's ahead and what's going to happen every step of the way.
Kind of steering them along the way, making sure they don't deviate too much.
Right, exactly.
That's pretty good. So, William, a question for you. Are you now interested in working on significant estates, or does your interest in residential projects cover the gamut from the contemporary to the European influence traditional? Are you?
I mean, I guess
You were just on a panel the other day. You were talking about it earlier.
talking about classical.
Right.
I mean, I think like creatively it makes my practice more fun. I mean, I don't have to do the same thing every day. I don't have to get up and do the same kind of project. And to me, the growth as an architect to be able to sort of do a French chateau or do a really highly modern house, it's a challenge, and challenge I think keeps things vital. I think the people in the office find it after a challenge. I find that, you know, the kids right out of school really just want to do contemporary. And I try to tell them that I feel at a certain level that doing traditional work makes us better at doing contemporary and vice versa. So I feel like by doing contemporary, our traditional work is more edited and a little tauter. And I think by doing traditional work, it makes contemporary work more complex a little bit in a way, and it expands the type of details and materials we use. So I like being involved in all of it. And you know, sort of big to small. Frankly, I really enjoy like remodeling, which I'm not able to do as much as I used to, just for just due to work pressure. But it's really satisfying to put an old house right. And I love that, and it's harder. You sort of spend longer trying to get the whole thing to work, and it's more satisfying when you do it. So I don't know. I sort of like it.
You like your business.
Yeah, I like your business.
So Bart, would someone call you in to do a remodel as well? Would someone bring you in for a remodel or just new construction?
Oh, no, we do renovations on it as well. I mean, they, as William said, they can be even more challenging. And typically the budgets get blown in renovations more than new construction. You kind of know in new construction, you have the cost per square foot, and maybe the client doesn't want to accept that in the beginning, but you know where it's going to go. Renovation, you don't know what's behind the wall. So we, in those kind of situations, we try to do some invasive testing and try to evaluate systems to reduce the surprises during construction.
And I also imagine that the homeowners love you because you're the constant watchdog for their budget. But how do the other professionals on the team feel about you? You know?
They love me too.
I mean, you really watch the budget, and what do you do when you feel so?
I think I mean, there's a science in construction management, of course, just doing all the technical stuff, but the art of it is really not only getting along with everyone, but enjoying working with everyone and keeping everybody working cohesively. I had a new client, potential client, call me, and they said, you know, they checked me out, and they said, I know you did this house. And so I talked to the architect, and they said, you did a really good job. And then I talked to the contractor, and they said they really did a great job, and they both loved working with you. And I'm like, well, so how did you make them both happy? And so that's really, to me, the whole point of it. It isn't having a big hammer and beating the contractor into submission. Although sometimes, you know, you have to have a hammer in your tool belt. You just don't use it indiscriminately. So it's more about, you know, finding a way to work with everybody. And even when there are problems, you know, I find, and there are always problems. In fact, when there are problems, you know, someone in the office will say, oh no, this happened. I said, well, this is great. You have a job. You know, this is, if construction was easy, we would not exist, right? So it's not that we don't go create them, you know, we don't have to. They come up by themselves, right? And so it's really more about just kind of figuring out a way to work with people in a genuine way. And I find if there's a mistake and the team has to pay for it, for example, that can be very painful. But if it's a genuine mistake, I find most people are like, you know, owners should pay for that. And they don't mind, but if you have to treat everybody respectfully, and you have to, you know, it's really about just getting everybody working together, and then, you know, then you have a great team, and the team is going to create a great project.
Good thoughts, good thoughts. I love that quote that Maya Angelou, I saw it on Facebook a year ago, but I always think about it when I'm talking to a client. You've probably all heard it, but I like it anyway. She said, it's not what you did, it's not what you said, but what you made them feel that they'll remember, how you made them feel that they will remember. And I go into a client myself, and I always try to remember that, because I have walked out of a meeting feeling pretty bad at times. You know, people can make you feel great, or they can, you know, and it's not what you say, or it's not what you do, some of your clients that are difficult?
But the greatest joy is when they turn around and they're so pleased and they're so excited because again, their home is their life. I mean, their home, don't you find, William? I mean, they're entertaining, their friends, their families are coming over, changes are happening, grandkids eventually come to the house, their relatives, and their home is their most intimate space. And when they love it, you have meetings in the living room and they feel so content and they light the candles and it comes together as a designer and fresh flowers are there. It's so rewarding. It's such a rewarding experience.
And rewarding when they call and ask you to do their next home.
And their next home, and their next
And
home.
their next home,
Or
and
they
their
turn
next
around,
home.
they sell it, Sue, and they've made, you know, in some cases, they've made over $10 million on the sale of a home. And sometimes clients, the next future owner wants to buy everything, and that's the highest compliment. They want to buy all the furniture.
William, one more question for you. What parts of a project require more active management of clients and their expectations? What's the most maybe difficult?
The most difficult times are in construction work. That's something that's said. And I think lately I found, like during construction, the period of time before you start to close up and before you put drywall, it's become so tedious because there's so much stuff running the walls and coordination, so many things from alarm systems to speakers to carbon monoxide sensors and just a million things that right on that. So people get really, really impatient at that stage. They go to the job site and it's the same, but it's really not the same. Actually, it's different, but to them it doesn't. But it's just hard to get all that stuff dialed in from all these different vendors and get it right. And I think then the other time is during the permitting process, because all the cities are so busy right now and they're not very accountable. And so you're trying to get the plan check and you submit it for plan check and you're supposed to have it back, or you have it back and you can't get an appointment for corrections. And so that aspect of time, people get really anxious and they're ready to go. So those are mine. I don't know what you think about it, Bart, but those are two toughest times for me.
So at the times when the client really doesn't see progress, at least in their mind.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they love to see framing and concrete and things are flying up and new designs being shown to them. When they're sitting around, it's very difficult.
Yeah. Design part's really easy. Like keep showing pretty drawings and drawings are prettier and prettier. Like, they just want to build it. That part's easy.
I don't know if
I had
could agree.
I had a client tell me the other day, so we were retained to do the project at the completion of schematic design, and the wife said, "Can we just give it to the builder now? Can we just start?" You know, like they're missing this entire process of actually creating drawings, getting permits, getting the land use permit. She thought, now that she saw the design, it's done.
It's done.
Let's just get it. Let's get going.
That's why you have
I'm
to
sorry.
educate people and
Yeah.
know it's a long, tedious process.
But also it helps with this process that you show your client a lot of the materials. You get them excited about the wall finishes, the lighting, the fabrics. So they have some tactile experience too. It's not just looking at the framing. We try to always bring in what's the layers, what's going to happen next, what the furniture is going to look like, the vision, the coffee ceiling. You have to keep the momentum going because they can get discouraged easily.
Well, somebody on one panel, maybe it was you, was talking about a very large residential project in Bel Air that the wife decided she wanted gold faucets, which was another $300,000 or $400,000, and there was a big argument between the husband and the wife. That wasn't good, I guess. But it was funny. It was a funny story, and I thought I could just see that happening. Husband and wives getting all entangled and wanting the wife wanting to change something.
You're a marriage counselor.
Yeah, how do you have to be a marriage counselor at that point?
You really do. And then there's zones where the husband likes to be involved, any kind of lighting, audio. It used to be the jacuzzi jets, the placement of the jacuzzi jets. And then after that, the wife takes over. Now the husbands seem to like to be involved in the process, which I like that. They come to the weekly meetings when the husband's available. And I think it's great when the couple's involved in the process.
Right, what do you do when a wife, say, has a girlfriend and she wants to go outside the box, do something you've designed, and do something with somebody else? And it's terrible. We know it's not going to fit in with what you've done. You have to, again, play the psychologist and talk her out of that. I mean, that's
That's a tricky situation, and sometimes you end up bringing 15 items to the house and maybe 12 are what her girlfriend thought would be appropriate. And you try to educate the client slowly why, and then you bring in a few that you're recommending and kind of give them a moment to kind of look at it, and usually
Now figure it out.
they kind of, oh, I see what you're saying now. But you want to honor what the girlfriend is saying. Just
You have to at least pretend you're trying, right?
exactly. You
And
know
our-
inside you're like, oh, my dead body, this isn't good.
An architect I talked to yesterday told me that what they do their design, and they spend most of their time during construction convincing the client not to change it.
I can see that happening, of course.
Yeah, because the design, it was actually right the first time, you know.
Speaking of the client, Bart, tell us about some of the star architects you work with and why they come to recommend Stonemark Construction Management in particular.
Well, we're very proud to be working with William on one project and hopefully on some more soon. We do a lot of work with Shubin and Donaldson. That's the Shubin and Donaldson image right there. We also do a lot of traditional homes with Mark Appleton and Associates. We like working with everybody. I mean, we're certainly design neutral. You know, building a building is not, it's not based on the style, although I will say that contemporary homes are much more difficult to build, technically.
Why is that?
There's no place to hide anything. Everybody wants a very thin floor plate, they want a thin roof plate, and you have very large rooms that need a lot of ductwork, a lot of services, all that stuff that goes into the wall assemblies, and there's no room to hide it. You don't have attics, you don't have crawl spaces. And every client seems to be pushing the envelope. They want the absolute maximum roof height, they want the maximum ceiling heights. And so, and then they want to push just past where they're allowed to for land use permits. You have to get a variance. I mean, it's like every client wants to push this envelope, and the contemporary is already pushing it. So for us, having the planning that goes into a contemporary project is much more important. And in fact, we're going to a system on many projects where we have, I was talking to William yesterday, that we're actually requiring the architect and the engineering team to all build a Revit 3D model and coordinated consultants prior to start of construction, so that so that we can get all these conflicts between ductwork and I know this is very interesting.
Designers hate this.
But it is so important because you get into construction and then the ductwork doesn't fit. And you know, the owner comes and you're tearing out the framing that you just built in order to get the ductwork in. They don't like that.
No.
Because that's where I want to put my drapes. I want to put the drapery rod as high as I can, and then there's a ductwork. I'm like, where did this come from? It wasn't here like a few days ago. Get rid of it.
Challenges, a lot
Very
of challenges. Right.
Open it for questions or?
I think we have time for a few questions. Are there any questions? Questions, anybody? Carol?
Can you speak about how trades will either help or hinder your process within design, construction, management?
Good question.
Well, I can say one thing. Certainly on things that need a lot of tweaking, it's especially helpful to have like an electrician who will indulge you with a number of little adjustments. You're going to have to make them. And so sometimes you get people that are really rigid, and that trade is difficult. And then, in all the finished things, like John did this too, but to have, the painter and stone people not be afraid to make lots of samples and the job site and help enable that process. It just allows decisions to be made more quickly. And then the other thing that is my pet peeve is I like people who are can do. You say, no, that's not going to work. So you spend all this energy trying to say, we did that on a project, and I know it can be done. It's going to crack or it's not going to work. And so all that aspect of sort of trying to negotiate something, trying to be more can-do is always appreciated.
Because I think when a client, like what you're saying, William, when a client hires you, they're also hiring your resources. That's a big part of why they're hiring you. So it's really important that the resources you use they have a relationship with you, like say a tile installer, or a tile supplier. I've known them over 20 years and I've given them a lot of work. So if there is a problem, they're going to come back to me and I'm going to come back to them and make sure they set it right for the client. Because ultimately, like you're saying, you want to hear, yes, I can make this happen for you, and yes, I'll produce the samples, because you can't expect a client to be able to visualize what you're saying. As much actual product and samples you can provide for them, you're making the process go smoother for everyone
They
on
need
the
to see
team.
it. They need to really.
And I would like to see it.
Right, well, of course.
Yes.
Right.
I think to get, it's really important to have contractor input early, general contractor and trade contractors. On all of our projects, we insist on retaining a general contractor very, very early, much earlier than usually at the end of schematic design. So while the design is being evolved, and what happens is then not only do you get this feedback loop on cost, and you start educating the client on what this is really going to cost and not what they think it's going to cost, but then the contractor can sit in on construction meetings or design meetings, and do mock-ups and do constructability review. How are we going to build this crazy thing that, the architects designed something that can't possibly be built, right? So how are we going to build this? And to bring them in early to start that project, you don't want to figure that out 6 months into construction. You want to figure it out early because maybe there's a few things that have to move or shift. You have to redo some structure to make some room for something. So it's really important to bring them in early, and that includes, then they'll bring in their stable of trade contractors. And as I said before, there's all this collective wisdom among the wider team. It's not just the architect, the designer, and the owner. I mean, there's this huge group of people, and they all have their knowledge. And if you can bring all that to bear on the problem, you're going to get it figured out and get a great result.
Right. Any other questions?
I had one for William. I had the pleasure of seeing your remarkable chateau in Bel Air, and I will not forget it. It's just astounding. It looks like it was transported from Europe, and every piece of it is authentic. And it's such a massive undertaking. I think it's 60,000 square feet. My question is, how did you manage it without a construction manager? And since you did that so beautifully, did somebody serve that role in a way from your own team? It's really neat.
So what helped in that project was it was the 7th project I've done for that company. And so we have a relationship that goes back 19 years. And the husband is an attorney and an accountant, trained as both. So between the two of us, we do a lot. And like that included going to variances. We didn't use any land use attorneys. We didn't use any law special law firm or planning consultants. We sort of did everything. Like we do everything ourselves. And we work together, and I know the things that are important to them, and they sort of have the issues that they do. So between that, it helped a lot. And that, I think that relationship is important. Because there's whole rooms that we didn't show them. And I said, do you want to see what we're really doing there? No, we know it's going to be nice. And there are certain rooms that were important. We spent the time going over because you have to kind of be selective because you can spend. Not everybody who's busy enough, is successful enough to build a house like that, has the time to put into every little detail. So.
That's the ideal client. They do trust you. They know you, and you've done many projects for you. Any other questions?
Question. I'm in the process of taking over a project that is 18 months into just rough frame, and they added 200 square feet. And I'm wondering what type of contract would you recommend based on the initial contract they had this time and material? So, but now it's time to bring in a team, different subcontractors. And most of my stuff is based on a subcontractor cost plus margin. And do you think that would be acceptable, or is there another type of contract that you would suggest?
So are you a general contractor? So you're taking over a project that's been going on for 18 months? That's why God invented time and materials. What else can you do? If they want something else, tell them to find somebody else. There's nobody else. And you just have to be very, frankly, so when we do these rescue projects, we always require the contractor to inspect and review 100% of the work that went before them and to warranty it, except for things they can't see like foundation work. So in other words, if I was involved, I would insist to the owner, we're going to pay you $50,000 or whatever the number is to have your electrician every single, assuming the walls aren't closed, right? To audit every single system and make sure everything is right. Because the last thing you want is then at the end of the job, you turn on the faucet and there's no water pressure, and you say, well, that guy did the water lines, So to me, that's the real worry is what's going to happen, at the end of the job. And rather than saying, I'm not responsible for it, saying, I will be responsible. You have to pay me, I'm going to get my best people, and they're going to test everything. And to me, that's a no-brainer.
So there's only framing.
Only framing. Was the framing straight? I mean, it's probably going to have to be shimmed, right? But if it's T&M, that's okay. Yeah.
Good luck. Any other questions? Well, I thank all of you for being here today, and I certainly thank the panelists. Did a great job, and you're so knowledgeable. I learn something every time I see all three of you together, and it's just wonderful. So thank you very much.
Thank you.